You don't need to live on a boat to experience the ups and downs of romantic relationships, but boat life surely has its spice to it. When I started this YouTube channel, I wanted to give an honest picture of our reality. Every week, I edit the stories of what happened 2 or 3 weeks ago, and those past 3 days, I was going to edit and publish the story of how we caught and cooked an octopus in southern Portugal. But I didn't feel that it was reflecting the reality of what we were living at this point. Because these days, Ryan and I are going through a little bit of a rough patch. Nothing bad, but enough that the perspective of spending 25 hours editing the story of an octopus didn't feel quite appealing. So instead of spending 25 hours editing a story that didn't feel quite right, Ryan and I sat and had a really good talk about how living on a boat and sailing full-time for the last 6 months affected our relationship. We had a really good talk. We felt like we got a lot out of it. But if relationship talks are not your thing, feel free to skip this one and wait for next week when I will indeed edit and publish the story of the octopus. It's not the first time that we struggle.
No.
I think that we had no misconceptions that going into this life was going to put our relationship through challenges, and it has definitely lived up to that. But I would say that the challenges and the struggle that we experience these days, 6 months after we left the dock for the first time, are different.
Yeah, definitely. I remember the first time that we got our boat and took it out, there was lots of yelling between you and me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't yelling in a bad sense, it was yelling because we really had no clue what we were doing. So each of us had our own expectations, and we thought the other person should just know those expectations, and well, it created a little bit of a crazy storm.
Yeah, and I guess that at the time we left the dock, we were also really adjusting to this new life. And that adjustment carries a lot of emotions, and I think that you and I process those emotions a lot differently. And a big change like this is always very tiring, so you and I were both really tired. And I think that most of the time that we really argued was because we were really tired.
I think it started even before we left.
Yeah.
There was a phase before we left, which is when we had the boat and we were weekend sailing or week sailing with it. And that was a time when we would go out with full sails up and 30 or 35 knots of wind and be yelling at each other across the boat if we should reef, and then the reefing went bad and we're yelling at each other anymore. And that was like relationship problems due to stress of inexperience, I would say. And that was like phase 1. And then we left the dock for good, and that was kind of this like phase 2, and that was relationship stress because of the change in lifestyle and also the change in sailing. It was a really like scary time, at least for me, and probably for you too.
Yeah, for me too. I think that I've extensively documented my fears of sailing.
So it was stressful because we were doing something new and kind of outside the mold of society, but we were also really scared. And so when you get into those situations and stuff goes wrong, you have no one to vent to except the person that's close to you, and that person just happens to be you. And we live in a 20 square meter place. Maybe it's smaller, I don't know. And then I think there's like this phase 3 that we're kind of in right now, which is we have gotten kind of over our fears. We've started to get used to like the life, and now it's like everyday living. And the everyday living is like the piece that we're really struggling with now. So like we're in a very small space all the time, right?
We're in a very small space, and we have no friends around. And although we've met some fantastic people along the way, you don't just go vent or talk about your relationship problems with people you just met the same way that you would do with your best friends, if you know what I mean. So
you always got air because you went to work, or you had activities with your friends, or you had like appointments with things, so you always had a way to break it up. So if something wasn't going right, at least you had a few hours to get the air. But we don't always have that here. Sometimes we do, depending on where we are. But other times we're like, well, we're very much together. And the only place to go to not be together is in the water on the other side.
Yeah, last week we had a big argument, and I think that the entire marina heard us. And I just needed to leave the boat, and I left. We were at the marina, but I had nowhere to go, and it just felt so sad and lonely. I went to this restaurant and had lunch, and I was like, I do not know this city. I don't even want to have lunch here. Like, no. The only place where I wanted to be was my home, but like my home is such a small space, and you were home, and literally we had no choice but to work through it, which took a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we spent
hours,
an entire afternoon working things out.
Yeah.
Which you don't normally do, because normally you would go to work, you would have an appointment,
and you could get some air and think things through, but you can't do that. You can sometimes, but not always, and it's just a different environment. Yeah, and I think that's kind of this period that we're trying to work ourselves through.
Yeah. I think that we've also realized that the things that we would argue the most about at home completely followed us on the boat.
That's true. Yeah, and they probably get exaggerated because the space is so small here.
Yeah. Let's put a bit of context in this so that people understand. But Ryan is the most organized person that I know. You pick up everything after you go somewhere, which makes you an amazing person to live with. The downside is that Ryan does not experience me as very organized, and
it creates tension.
Yeah. And that's the kind of conflict that we had before we moved on the boat. And now that we live in this tiny space,
it's just like magnified by 10, I would say.
So that's one thing. All the things that we argued about at home followed us on the boat. And now we have new things because, well, we don't always have the same ideas of what is safe or not.
What is the priority in time?
What we should be focusing on at one given time, before departure, before we go somewhere.
And what would you think the biggest stress between us right now is?
I would say it's the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's my background. So I have a really hard time, as many of you have noticed, being on the camera. And that's because I don't like to always show my personal side. And so I've had to really come out and show that through this project. So that's been very challenging for me. And at the same time, Sophie, as she said, puts a lot of time and energy into the videos. So all of that time, she's 100% focused, when I think maybe we need to have some focus on some other things also. So that's like a conflict that arises a lot from the videos.
The camera used to be an enormous conflict because it's easy to film when things are going well. It's always easy to take the camera when you're having fun, when you're jumping in the water, when the sailing is smooth, when the weather is pretty. It's a lot less easy to take out the camera when you're a bit scared, or you're dealing with a situation that makes you nervous, or we're departing or arriving somewhere, which is really what I want to show. And that did not always go over very well.
No, it was hard.
It's still very much on the table because it is really a project that I pour my heart and soul in, and as you say, sometimes I will spend days and days editing or doing research without even
eating food.
Yeah, sometimes I forget to eat.
It's true.
And I feel pressured by you that on one side I really want to get this done, but I also want to meet your expectations, and it's always like this balance that we haven't really found between, okay, I need to do my work, but certain things on the boat need to be done.
Yeah.
So we now have, I love how we did this project to escape the corporate world, but we still have Monday meetings.
We now have Monday morning meetings.
Where we go through what we're going to do during the week to make sure that our expectations are aligned, that we have somewhat of a schedule. And I think that it has solved part of the problem, but we still end up in that pattern of meeting each other's expectations.
We haven't broken out of the little circle that we're in right now. No. But I think we will. We've been there before, but I think the key is like good communication.
Yeah.
And without that on a boat, it's really hard.
And we have a joker card.
Do we have a joker card?
We have a joker card. It's Veronica.
Oh, yeah. We have a therapist.
Ryan and I have been seeing a couple counselor
For 2 years.
for 2 years. Yeah, a little on and off. When we started to meet Veronica, it was not because you and I were on the verge of breaking up.
Not at all.
We met this fantastic couple counselor, Veronica. We owe you so much if you watch this video. Thank you for everything you've done. I think that in the context of our sailing, it's been extremely beneficial.
Yeah, it has, because it's forced us to learn how to talk to each other. And without that, we wouldn't be here right now. Without communicating, we would have probably stopped. Working with the counselor before we left helped give us tools as a relationship. In my personal opinion, it's probably one of the most complex parts of a sailing project is the relationship.
Next week we're traveling to Stockholm for work, so we booked an appointment with Veronica and I'm really looking forward to it. But after 6 months of cruising full-time as a couple, I think that we can now say that we understand why people would break up.
Oh yeah, definitely. I totally understand why, and would not fault couples for breaking up and doing this, because it's really challenging.
It is. It sounds so romantic when you talk about it. Like, oh
We're
yeah.
gonna sit on a beach with a mojito
And my lover, and
They don't talk about the screaming that goes on while you're crashing into the dock, or the food that gets left out and you're mad about it because it's the 10th time that it's happened that week. Just a general example, not something specific.
That's right.
All those little things, and you have to get through that to get to the hammock on the beach with the mojito.
That's right.
So definitely something that should be considered.
But you know, in all of that, and in spite of the arguments and the struggle and the frustration and the patterns that we end up in and the fact that we're stuck 24/7 with each other's, I have never questioned the nature of what it is that we do, or if you and I were going to make it as a couple.
No.
Right. So sailing has impacted our relationship in some ways that are challenging, but it has also impacted our relationship in very positive ways.
Yeah.
And I think that we really need to talk about that too.
Yeah. On a personal level, I've experienced things in the last 4 months that a person would never experience in their life, like seeing dolphins in the middle of the night splashing through the phosphorescent sea. And I woke Sophie up in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m. when she was off watch.
Meaning, I was sleeping.
She was sleeping, and she probably was a little annoyed that I woke her up to tell her to come look at the dolphins. But it was really cool, and I wanted to experience it with somebody.
You did not annoy me. I thought it was very sweet and very romantic of you. I really enjoyed that moment. I did go back to sleep after 30 seconds, but I thought it was sweet.
It went on for 2 hours. She saw about
No, it was cool.
0.5% of it.
And then like beyond the fact that you and I get to experience something really cool together, there is the fact that because we're in the situation where we get to experience something completely different than what we used to know, we also discover new sides of each other's.
Yeah.
I've discovered sides of you that I didn't know about before and that I find really, really cool. No, but it's true. When we crossed the North Sea in the English Channel that night, I was really scared, and it was dark and it was bouncy, the boat was rolling, we were taking like quarter beams waves, and I couldn't sleep, I was tired. It was the first time that I was experiencing a sea state like that, and you knew what you were doing. You were good with me. You were so good. Instead of pushing me to go over my fear or treating my fear as if I was being some chicken, or, you know, instead of talking me down, you really listened to what I was feeling. You made it up to me to decide, okay, do you want to listen to your fear and in this case we stop, or do you want to continue and it's going to be okay, the situation is under control because of this and this. And I thought it was awesome. Like the next day I woke up, I was like, gosh, my boyfriend's a badass. I've also discovered that you're an excellent captain. You take such great care of the boat. I'm so impressed by how fast you've learned about everything that has to do with the boat. That's super cool. I've been super impressed.
Yeah, you really get to learn. I mean, with you, it's like all the creativity that goes into your videos has definitely been something I didn't know about. And all the hard work and focus that's there. But yeah, you learn a lot of things and you get to share those things with the other person. And that's really fun.
Yeah.
We had one of the best sails of our trip. I've been talking about it all day yesterday. It was just a 20-mile sail, but it was also our shortest sail. We always have done like 30 or 40, 50 miles, so it's like the full day, and this was just like 4 hours. We sailed the whole way. It was really comfortable. Seas were fine. It was just nice.
Yeah.
And we just both sat in the cockpit, and it was great. It was really nice. So those days are the days that you have to enjoy with the other person to make up for all the times that like stuff is really crappy, and there's going to be plenty of really crappy times. I
will conclude with this. It's really hard, and the hard times are really testing, but in the end, because we live on such a small space and because we have nowhere to go, we do not have a choice. We have to work out the conflict. I mean, we're not perfect at conflict management, to be very honest here. When things are really hard, but you still pull through, you still come out of it stronger on the other side. Like, how can you imagine making your life with someone else, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what our first month of cruising have taught me about our relationship.
I think I leave with this. Like, we meet people along the way and we have people ask questions about all kinds of things, right? What kind of boat should I buy, and where should I go cruise, and should I take lessons first? And it's okay to also ask yourself questions like, how do I prepare my relationship for this too? That is a question you should also ask yourself. That's just my only advice. It's actually a good piece of advice. It is. That it's not just about the boat, it's not just about your gear, it's also about the person you're going with. And couple therapy is amazing. We definitely can advocate couple therapy. Yep. Thanks for watching. Bye. No, Ryan, we are not done. Oh, okay. Because we have to give away our AIS. Because someone is getting our AIS today. I was just thinking about that though. Where is the AIS? Have you seen it? And now, it is time. Time for the Alias Giveaway. In the shitty pirate hat. In the shitty pirate hat. Woohoo! Look at that, guys. Okay, first off, I would like to thank you guys for your awesome participations. We've received really cool emails and great stories from all of you, and I can honestly say that we really wish we had an AIS to give to all of you. Unfortunately, we only have one. We only have one. No. So we're gonna do a hat drawing. We're gonna do a hat drawing. We have all the names in here. Okay. Awesome. It is Mike on Brenda C. Okay. Congratulations. Ryan is like, what? Well, Mike, we'll get in touch to ask you for your address and we will send you the AIS. We really hope it makes a difference for you. Alright, to conclude this video, Ryan and I are good. We're good. I think we should do a little follow-up after our counselor we can do that. Session. And talk about... But I think the big follow-up is going to be the octopus. Yes, that's right. But if you have any questions or comments, as always, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And if you really like our channel, click subscribe and the thumbs up. That'd be awesome. I like when you do thumbs up. We are also going to do a Q&A very soon. So if you have any questions that you would like us to answer, please feel free to send us an email at ryanandsophieontheboat@gmail.com. Was that it? Yeah, I think that's it. You were right. Okay. Well,
Bye guys, see you next week.
Fearless lady.